After acing all his college entrance exams, Luke Ellis, a 14-year-old prodigy, wins a scholarship to MIT. During dinner, he talks to his parents about the offer he received. Although they are not happy about their son's departure, Herb and Eileen decide to support him in his decision, as they want Luke to have the chance to explore his full potential. Later, in the early hours of the morning, the family is asleep when their home is invaded by a group of agents sent to capture the young genius, who lives in Minneapolis. Meanwhile, in the state of Maine, Tim decides to apply for a night watchman position, as he has extensive experience as a police officer in Boston. Some time ago, Tim was off duty from the police force, but had been drinking before he saw a young man taking a gun out of the trunk of his car. When confronted by a police officer, the criminal attacked him, so Tim reacted to the attack. As revealed by a test that he had been drinking, he ended up being dismissed from his position in the police force. After losing his job, Tim began drinking heavily and ended up destroying his marriage. When he realizes that he is dealing with a guy who is trying to start his life over, Sheriff John decides to hire him and says he will start work that night. In the morning, when Luke opens his eyes, he realizes he is in his room and feels relieved to believe that what happened the night before was just a dream. However, when he opens the door, he realizes that it is only a replica of his room and that he has actually been taken to an institute along with several other gifted young people. Upon meeting Kalisha, the young man begins to ask countless questions and discovers that the young people who are recruited to be part of the institute are divided into two groups: those who have telepathic abilities and those who are capable of practicing telekinesis. Throughout his life, Luke has made objects move around him, but he has never had control over this power. After explaining the rules of the place, Kalisha advises the newcomer to do as the supervisors say, and then decides to kiss him. At that moment, Trevor appears and asks the young man to go meet Mrs. Sigsby. Without understanding what is happening, Luke goes to meet the director of the institute in hopes of getting answers to his questions. As soon as he enters the room, Luke asks to speak to his parents, but Sigsby says that won't be possible. According to her, all the young people at that institute have an extremely important mission to fulfill, and their efforts will save humanity. The director says that once he has made his contribution by allowing his brain to be studied, Luke will have his memory erased and be taken back home. In the meantime, the young man will have to learn to enjoy his stay at the institute and is forced to allow Tony to place a tracking chip in his ear. Later, during dinner, Luke meets the other young people who are also trapped in the institute and is impressed by George's abilities. Although he can't do much with his powers, the young man is able to control them, something Luke has never been able to do. After helping to capture the newcomer, Michelle was unhappy with the direction the mission took, as there were some unforeseen events after Luke was blackout. Noticing that his collaborator is acting strangely, Trevor decides to have a conversation with her, and Michelle reveals her dissatisfaction with her job. Later, she goes out to meet her girlfriend, who is a journalist, and begins to feel compelled to tell her the whole truth. Michelle's hope is that Kate can help her expose the institute's existence to the authorities, but before she has a chance to expose the company where she works, Michelle is eliminated. After cowardly shooting her girlfriend, Kate calls Trevor and says he was right about Michelle being untrustworthy. The next morning, Luke wakes up to the news that Iris is going home. After contributing to the institute's research, the young woman can finally say goodbye to her friends before having her memory erased. Seeing his friend apprehensive about what is about to happen, Nick tries to reassure her, even though he knows there is no guarantee that Iris will return home safely. As soon as the girl is taken to the back, where the young people spend a few days before returning to their families, Luke is escorted to the lab, where he will receive an injection and undergo aptitude tests. After taking 2 doses of a mysterious substance, Luke manages to put his powers into practice and uses telekinesis to lift a toolbox. When he realizes that the young man is exhausted, Dr. Hendricks decides to postpone the tests, and Luke walks to the cafeteria to have lunch with his friends. At that moment, Luke and Nick decide to orchestrate an escape plan to get out of that place instead of waiting for their captors to release them. During a basketball game, the young men discuss the best strategy to adopt and come to the conclusion that they need to recruit one of the employees to help them. To do this, they will need Kalisha's help to read the supervisors' minds and find out which one of them has a reason to participate in the escape. Suddenly, looking outside the walls, Luke sees 2 chimneys releasing smoke and asks what is causing it, but Nick does not know the answer. According to the young man, the chimneys are lit almost every week, but none of them know the real reason. Later, after passing through the dream box, George reveals that his powers have been amplified and he can now get several items from the candy machine with a single token. Excited about his friend's new abilities, Luke shares the news with the rest of the team, and Nick says that as soon as George can move the lights in the dream box, he will supposedly be taken home. Upon hearing this, Kalisha wonders if Iris and the other teenagers who passed through there really returned to their families, but Nick is convinced that everything they say there is a lie. That night, when he is already in bed, Luke hears a child crying in the hallway and goes out to see what is happening. When they see the new team member lying on the floor, all the young people gather around him to try to calm him down, and Kalisha soon realizes that Avery is a great telepath. When he is taken to the testing room for the second time, Luke receives another injection, and Tony forces him to keep his gaze fixed on a screen. At that moment, the young man sees some colored dots of light and his nose starts to bleed. While monitoring his test subject's brain activity, Dr. Hendricks realizes that Luke's powers are developing, but interrupts the experiment when he sees the young man suffer a seizure. When he regains consciousness, he begs to be taken back to his room and realizes that he needs to escape from that place as soon as possible. During breakfast, Luke realizes that Avery is exactly what he needs to carry out his escape plan, because with the boy's abilities, it will be much easier to identify an employee who is likely to help them. Suddenly, during the meal, Avery hears a very loud buzzing sound coming from the other side of the facility, and besides him, only Kalisha can hear it. A few miles away lives a homeless woman. Everyone treats her like she's crazy because they don't understand her telepathic abilities, except for Tim. Although he does not understand how the elderly woman can read his thoughts, the former police officer always pays attention to what she has to say, and this time, Annie advises him to stay away from Route 10, where the supposed infectious disease research center is located, which is actually just a cover to camouflage the existence of the institute. While walking through the corridors with Avery, Luke discovers that Maureen is full of secrets and hates that place as much as the young people who live there. That night, before going to work, Tim decides to stop by a bar for a drink and meets Kate, who immediately starts chatting with him. During the conversation, the night watchman takes the opportunity to ask about the Route 10 laboratory, and the journalist says she has been trying for years to get information to write an article about it. At that moment, Tim shares some information he received from Annie, but Kate manages to convince him that what the old woman said is nothing more than rumors. Observing the guards who provide security on the other side of the fence, Luke notices a pattern and states that they patrol every 6 hours. Therefore, the best time to escape is during the shift change. When she sees the guard accompanied by a German shepherd, Avery uses his powers to enter the dog's mind, and for a few minutes, he can see everything he sees. Thanks to the animal, the young man discovers that there is another fence on the outside and the only way to cross it is to dig a hole underneath it. At that moment, Kalisha appears and Avery interrupts the connection with the dog, as he realizes that the girl is not well. She says she just came out of the dream box and managed to connect with the buzzing sound Avery heard nights ago. This means that soon, Kalisha will be taken away, as happened to Iris, and will never see her friends again. At dawn, Mrs. Sigsbee and her team show up with a cake to congratulate Kalisha on the success of her mission and thank her for her sacrifice. According to the woman, the next step will be to erase the young woman's memories so she can be sent back home. Before going to the back, Kalisha asks all her friends to hold hands to say goodbye, but Sigsbee orders the security guards to drag the girl out. Using his powers, Avery tries to follow his friend, but ends up losing the connection minutes later and is unable to find out what happened to her. That night, when he passes by Annie's tent, Tim decides to pay her a visit and comes across the elderly woman's lifeless body, who apparently ended up drinking too much. 24 hours have passed since Kalisha was taken, and so far, Avery has been unable to establish any connection with her. During breakfast, two twins arrive at the cafeteria and are greeted by Luke and the other young people. Then Harry shows up and pushes Avery away when the boy tries to approach him to welcome him. Immediately, Nick and the others rally to protect their friend and knock down the troublemaker, who soon accepts his defeat. Realizing that Harry is as scared as any young person arriving at that institute, Luke and Nick team up to help him calm down. While they are talking in the courtyard, Trevor shows up to take the newcomer to Mrs. Sigsbee's office, and Luke manages to read Harry's thoughts. At that moment, Avery realizes that his friend has acquired the power of telepathy, and Luke begins to think of a strategy to hide the fact that he has both abilities. The problem is that Dr. Hendricks is already suspicious that Luke is a special young man and decides to conduct a new test to assess his psychic abilities. However, even though he is forced to watch disturbing images, which theoretically would help awaken his powers, the young man manages to hide his connection to the buzzing. At dusk, with Avery's help, Luke contacts Kalisha and is relieved to learn that she is alive. Like Kalisha, Iris is also being kept under supervision in a department on the other side of the institute, and Luke realizes that all the young people there have been affected by the mysterious substance. According to Kalisha, In a few days, Iris will be sent to the recovery room, and Avery claims that this is where the buzzing is coming from. Convinced that Annie did not lose her life through her own fault, Tim decides to investigate the tent where the elderly woman lived in search of clues about what really happened, and the next morning, he takes the bottle of drink to Wendy for analysis. Every time he saw Annie, Tim noticed that she was wearing lipstick, but there are no lipstick marks on the bottle's spout, which means she never drank that beverage. During the night, Luke has a dream and discovers that the twins are in danger. She immediately runs to Harry's room and tries to open the door, but finds that it is locked. Desperate, the young man asks Tony for help, and when he opens the door, the man sees Greta being beaten while trying to help Harry calm down. The next morning, upon being informed of what happened, Dr. Hendricks decides to run a new battery of tests on Luke to prove that the young man has the ability to read minds. However, even after several minutes of being attacked in an air deprivation chamber, the young man continues to hide his abilities, and the doctor orders Tony to take him back to his room. When he sees Maureen helping Luke lie down on his bed, Avery manages to read her mind and discovers what is happening inside the recovery room. According to the young man, that is where Gerda and all the teenagers are taken when their minds collapse. After her twin sister was cowardly eliminated, Gerda went into shock and stopped communicating, becoming useless for the Institute's tests. As a result, she was sent to the recovery room, where, after undergoing several experiments, most young people can no longer resist and their bodies are destroyed in flames so that no trace remains. At that moment, Luke discovers that the smoke coming out of the chimneys is from the bodies of his colleagues. In the morning, the young man is taken to Mrs. Sigsbee's office, who intends to conduct a decisive test to find out if he is a telepath. After receiving him, the woman opens a newspaper page on her computer that reports the perishment of Luke's parents, saying that they decided to end it all. She then waits for the young man's reaction. Since only Sigsbee can see the screen, if Luke shows any reaction, she will know that the young man has read her mind. At that moment, Luke stands up, and after seeing the photo of his parents in the newspaper, he attacks the director. Seconds later, the guards appear to capture him. When Sigsbee is about to take revenge for the attack, Hendricks interrupts her to inform her of Tim's arrival, who is trying to get through the gates. While trying to extract information about what happens in that place, the night guard notices that there are several electric fences inside the gate, which indicates that they are trying to prevent possible escapes. Seeing Tim leaving, Sigsbee orders Hendricks to investigate him to find out if someone sent him to spy on the Institute. When the day comes for Nick to be sent to the back, the young man decides to come clean and says that everyone there knows about the origin of the smoke from the chimneys. While trying to escape, he lures the guards to an electronic lock and uses a stun gun to open it. After being captured, the teenager is dragged to the back room, and Luke tries to convince Maureen to help them escape before they end up being eliminated. Feeling guilty for having been complicit in everything they do in that place, the woman decides to help the newcomer escape and gives Luke a key so he can get to the laundry room. When she realizes that Maureen has been spending a lot of time talking to Luke, Sigsbee decides to call her to her office to find out what they were talking about and orders the cleaning lady to stay away from the young man. That night, before going to the laundry room, Luke uses scissors to remove the chip from his ear and enlists Avery's help to bandage it. Thanks to Nick's help, Luke was able to access the room where the Institute's security equipment is located and cut some cables so that the security cameras would not be able to detect movement. This way, he manages to reach the elevator without being noticed and walks to the laundry room to find Maureen. After covering the young man with towels, the woman pushes the cart to the recovery room and hands him a flash drive so he can show the world everything that happens inside. Before leaving, Luke sees Iris lying on one of the stretchers and tries to wake her up, but soon realizes that the girl is completely unconscious. After passing through the room where the bodies are destroyed, Luke finally reaches the back of the courtyard and runs to the gate. With the help of his scissors, the young man digs under the fence and runs toward the river. Upon entering the water, Luke ends up attracting the attention of one of the security guards, who leaves his post to check if there are any fugitives nearby. When he sees the flashlight approaching, the young man dives in and swims to the other side of the river. As she prepares to leave, Maureen discovers that she has been summoned to Trevor's office and realizes that she has been discovered. At that moment, the woman realizes that she will not be able to leave the Institute alive and calls Kate for help. She then informs her that she helped Luke escape and asks the journalist to go find him. At that very moment, Tim is walking around the Institute, looking for a way in to begin his investigations. As dawn breaks, the night guard decides to leave so as not to be discovered and ends up finding Luke on the way. Realizing that Tim does not work for Sigsbee, the young man decides to trust him and accompanies him to his car. Later, the director finds Maureen's body behind the door and discovers that she ended her life minutes after contacting Kate. At that moment, Sigsbee discovers that the cleaning lady helped a teenager escape and checks all the rooms until she finds Luke's locator hidden under the pillow. By this point, Luke is already starting to worry about Maureen, as she had agreed to meet him after finishing her shift. So he convinces Tim to help him look for his friend in the forest, but they both end up being found by Kate. Realizing that Luke can read her mind, the journalist grabs her gun to get rid of Tim and take the young man back to the institute. However, before Kate can pull the trigger, the young man uses his powers to knock a tree branch down on her, and Tim pushes her onto the rocks. After hitting her head, the woman falls into the water and the former police officer discovers that Luke was not delusional when he talked about the things that happen at that institute. After Kate is eliminated, Tim takes the teenager to the police station and shows the flash drive to the sheriff. Upon seeing one of the officers, Norbert, who is a corrupt cop, he immediately realizes that he is the young man who escaped from the institute and informs Trevor of his location. While watching the recording on the flash drive, John and Tim discover what happens inside the institute and are shocked by the images. Ironically, after losing her life, Maureen was sent to the same oven where the bodies of the young test subjects sent to the recovery room are destroyed. After watching the video, the sheriff takes his car keys to take Luke and Tim to Portland, so Drew decides to get rid of him. After eliminating John, the police officer regrets what he had to do and orders Tim to handcuff the young man to the chair. After informing Trevor of what happened, Drew drags the sheriff's body into the next room and Luke uses his powers to bring a paperclip close to Tim. At that moment, the night guard manages to free them, and they both run to the convenience store. With Mr. Dobier's help, the pair hide in a basement, and when Sigsbee shows up, the salesman manages to throw her off the trail. After leaving the store, Luke connects with Avery and discovers that he has been sent to the air deprivation room. When his oxygen is removed, the young man becomes furious and uses his powers to blow up the glass that keeps him trapped. With nowhere to go, Tim decides to ask Wendy for help, but since the flash drive is in the sheriff's pocket, they have no way to prove that Luke is telling the truth. Even so, when Drew knocks on her door, Wendy helps them both hide, but Sigsbee manages to find them. Seeing Tim pointing a gun at him, Drew tries to convince Wendy that he has gone mad and waits for the first opportunity to capture his coworker. After restraining Wendy, Drew shoots the night guard, but ends up being eliminated after being shot by Tim. At this point, Sigsbee realizes she is surrounded and decides to tell the truth about the Institute's origins. According to her, the gift of these young people is used to predict chain reactions that will bring about the end of the world. Like Luke, there are a few other young people capable of predicting the future, and when something or someone threatens the safety of humanity, they are immediately eliminated. After telling this story, Sigsbee recalls that Tim eliminated one person in Boston to save several others, and states that if he decides to take Luke away, he will put the future of all humanity at risk. While Tim handcuffs the director of the institute with the aim of handing her over to the FBI, Luke establishes a new connection with Avery. After blowing up the air deprivation room, the young man is sent to the back, and upon arriving there, he decides to use his powers to save all the young people, including those who are already completely erased in the recovery room. In an attempt to prevent a possible conspiracy, Hendricks orders Tony to erase Avery, but the young man uses his powers to make him swallow his stun gun. After Tony is eliminated, the doctor realizes that all the employees are in danger, and Trevor sounds the security alarm. Upon entering the recovery room, Nick finds an employee with her body completely destroyed on one of the stretchers, so he guides Iris and the others out of there. However, Trevor manages to cut off the power from the back to prevent the young people from opening the electronic locks. When he realizes that his friends are trapped, Luke asks Tim for help in talking to the head of security and discovers that he plans to set fire to the tunnel where all his friends are. Knowing that he is the only one in his group capable of predicting the future, Luke decides to make a deal with Trevor and claims he is returning to the Institute. Upon arriving at the location, Tim is greeted by Trevor, who immediately orders his team to get in the car to capture Luke. However, in doing so, they discover that they have been deceived, as Wendy was impersonating the young man, while Luke breaks into the facility to rescue his friends. Upon entering the back, Luke uses one of the employees' keys to open the doors, but when he reaches the tunnels, he realizes that the place is completely closed off. After connecting with Avery, Luke contacts the young people who are imprisoned in all the other institutes scattered across the planet and combines his powers with theirs. This gives the young man enough strength to open the door, and when he finds his friends, he asks Avery for help to clear the way. However, after opening the door, Avery decides to stay with the other young people to destroy that place and advises his friends to hurry. After escaping the tunnels, Luke, Nick, and Kalisha run to the front part to find George, and then run to the courtyard. The goal now is to get out of that facility before the entire building collapses. When he realizes what is about to happen, Trevor also tries to escape, but ends up suffering a terrible fall. After helping his friends get to safety, Luke connects with Avery one last time and helps him take down the Institute, which for decades has destroyed the lives of thousands of gifted young people. While watching the Institute go down, Tim steals a gun from one of the guards and manages to free himself. He then runs to meet Luke and takes the young people to safety. Even after everything that has happened, Sigsbee manages to escape with her life and takes with her a flash drive containing all the information that the Institute's leaders have tried to hide all these years. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.